Guruji, you know I leave tomorrow.
Yes,
And
right here.
when I'm home,
Yes.
my connection to the Sangha is via the internet.
Yeah.
And I have this love for the internet for what it has brought me, because it brought me to your feet, you know. And being online has allowed me to be with you and to discover you, and it's precious, and for that I'm very grateful. But the thing with the internet is if you spend a lot of time online, like I do, because I'm watching satsang all the time, you come across both aspects. All of this great wealth of knowledge we have now available to us, where we can just, at the touch of a few buttons, we can be in satsang with a great master like you. And then there's the negative side of the internet, where there's a lot of trolling and negativity, and people experience this a lot when they're online a lot. And because I'm going to spend a lot of time online now, being with you, and
Yes.
you know, I'd like some advice about how to meet these things, and you know, the stuff that we see online all the time.
Sure.
And I'm sorry if it's a bit of a worldly question. And, you know.
No, I feel it's important for me, you know, because many of these terms I'm just hearing also, like trolling, and you know, I'm not so much. My use of internet is very, very basic, you know. So I don't
It's
really.
trolling and it's bullying, and sometimes it's creating fearful thoughts in people, or doubtful things. There's a broad range of stuff that we face when we're online.
Yes. Yes. Clearly, you know, and I mean, there are different ways we look at these things also, because in one way, there is a perspective that functions in me to look at all things as a play of consciousness, you know? And that consciousness, by the very nature that it expresses as life and language and the functioning of perception and the sense of self and the sense of God, the sense of right and wrong and good and evil, life and death, and all of this is produced through consciousness, you see? That in fairness, it is going to have these interrelated opposites, you know? That play will be there, but that within the play, varying beings will come to a certain level of maturity and will naturally wish to expand inside that their understanding and so on. No? And there will be forces, as we have seen, and that we know from long ago, these forces play there. And irrespective of who you are, in fact, you know, that there will be voices that are not only disagreeing. Disagreeing is one thing, having different opinions is something fine, you know? But seem like they deliberately set out to create, you know, this controversy, scandal, attacks on beings and so on, and sometimes really, really unfair and untruthfully. So we may ask, well, why would this happen? Why would, you know, God, consciousness, allow these things to happen, you see? And one really search within to find, I mean, there must be, of course, reasons also, because I find that our daily life, the troubles that come, they also help us to grow. And even when someone, you know, even from the story of the Bible, when one time when Jesus spoke about people who actually was doing similar things to him, you know, and he said, you know, they hate me without reason, that is, you know, and that, but I don't think he was so surprised at that. I think, I feel that all beings, not just, spiritually conscious beings, but people who just seem to be more visible than others and get a certain amount of attention, it seems like it comes. And with really this modern phenomenon of internet activity, which it seems to have so much wonderful things about it. We start to see also some things that people are expressing sometimes out of their pain also. And some people are really intimidated even by love, to see like the expression of genuine love. It brings up many things for them. And I feel what we are seeing sometimes too are, we cannot pin it down to just one intention. But it can be also that, some beings are carrying so much misunderstanding inside, so much hatefulness or grudge or, stale energies or so on, and they have to vent that. And, some voice may say that at least they're venting it mostly, it's just wind and words and so on, But those who taste that fire, they know, it's very hurtful when people say may attack someone that we love or we respect with things that nobody has proof whether they are true or not, and so there's another window that they can come through. But it will happen. I see it as of course, because I cannot disagree that this is a movement in consciousness. I cannot say only what is agreeable to me are expressions of consciousness. I feel the full expression is there, and we all have to work out our lives, If you believe in karma or whatever it is, we have to work through our own sort of processes and understanding and development and sensitivity towards goodness. We have to be attracted to and feel good about caring for other beings, and some people, it hasn't reached people yet. It's probably at the level of trees and rocks and landscape, and the more they move towards more sentient forms, they start to have trouble, When it reaches the human beings, it's like biggest trouble. But it's a lot to do with our conditioning also, and beings come at various stages within their spiritual development and maturity, and they express variously. So many we feel that people who we say are spiritual people are those who have a natural aspiration towards, discovering God or discovering truth, growing in the truth within themselves experientially and so on like that. But that's not the only kind of people that are there. There are people who consider themselves spiritual also, but have a certain kind of motives that would be surprising to other beings, that they would want to see. They will not work towards, say, harmony of human beings, but divisions were devoted to dividing and creating havoc and causing people to hate each other and to fight it out amongst themselves, without themselves, the ones who are the main perpetrators of these kind of conflicts, seeming to be involved in it at all. So there's all kinds of things there, and what to do.
As a sadhana, because I sometimes feel like I can get drawn into the discussion. What the question is also sometimes about how to meet it, whether you respond, whether you just stay high.
It's difficult because my natural thing is just to respond to things. If somebody, if I feel joy, then my response comes towards that joy. You feel love, a response comes towards love. You feel sort of a hatred or these kind of energies, also something responds to that. It may not respond to it, but like for like in some cases. But the intention, its seeming intention of some beings, it communicates. It really, it can sting, and especially when and feel that it is trying to distract the minds of people who are exploring. But these beings, they would have to learn in time. We each get a taste of our own medicine sometimes. And it's funny how it is that sometimes it seems that people attack in someone else the things that is really strong in themselves also. But somewhere in life, it gets, thankfully, that is not just some other person detects something and then deliberately challenge something. It comes from all different ways in life. Things get addressed, And sometimes we see, but it seems unfair because it never gets addressed, with the same spoon. Sometimes it comes in a different way, and seemingly unrelated, but I feel that we are compelled beyond our human nature to evolve, And it may be slow, it might be painful, and the more it seems as though we are deeply invested in personhood or personality, the slower our journey into what I would call real freedom is, And of course, people say things that we experience and to be very unpleasant and, hurtful and shameful, disrespectful and so on. I don't know if anybody ever really gets used to it, but I remember I was brought up in a very loving way with my father, and then a little bit different with other relatives, growing up. But the first time I really tasted, that someone really didn't like you, want to fight you or something like that, was at school, and it was really devastating to find someone who really don't like you and even wants to beat you up. Even the guy even said, at lunchtime, Tony Muya, I'm going to beat you up. And he had muscles like lemons in his arms. And, I had the strength but not the courage to fight. I was never attracted to that, But these things come to us, and sometimes you have to walk the walk. Sometimes you'll find that you're out of moves. You cannot just escape. An apology won't work. A love letter, please forgive me, it doesn't work. They're just after your head, and you have to stand up and fight. When I say fight, I don't know, in whatever way. You do what you can, So sometimes when people, even in my own sake, sometimes people write very unkind things, very untruthful things. And I also feel it for them. Because I feel that you bring a lot of bad things on yourself. People who plan these things even, knowing in their heart it's not true. But maybe not respecting their own heart also. My feeling naturally, is to respond to these things and to, as honestly, and keep out of the fire of personal, sort of feelings, but to really be as corrective as you can about things. Because if somebody is listening, some people have a tendency to listen to bad news. It catches their attention. I think some people believe that by culture, we are oriented towards listening to negative things. We seem to excite something in us, So I don't know if there's any newspaper or anything promoting good news. I don't know if there's such a thing. But it's clear that sometimes good news for people can provoke jealousies and, anger and frustrations in some beings. It doesn't always mean that someone is always going to be congratulatory or happy for you. Even could be members of your family. It happens. Even in relationships, like even intimate romantic relationships, one part of the couple is jealous of the other one, and so these things they're not new. They're old,
Rudy,
ancient.
you said that we must stay out of personhood when these things happen. I feel like I get drawn into personhood if someone I love is being attacked.
Yes, but it's a natural feeling to be pulled
like
in
I
and to yes.
I want to come in and say,
Yes,
hey.
I always say, up to a point, you must address. I feel to not say and to.
Because you sort of you just.
You just take it on the chin and
just take it on the chin, or do you come in and say, no?
I'm never immediately dismissive of what people say. I learned to give some space to listen to what they're saying, and sometimes it's been so helpful for me. Not on the level that they intended, by the way, but something, make use of it or use it as some kind of mirror to search. Because it's very difficult sometimes to really look into yourself on just pleasant feelings. We just want to just enjoy those. But when things rock your boat, then you're more inclined to look more deeply and like, wow, something is on fire, and you look and say, wow, And you see that part of the mind that really wants to do something immediately, and something that hurts as much, if not more, to the ones who seem to be causing that, It feels a very normal, I don't know if everyone has used the word natural reaction, but I think it's a kind of normal reaction for many people when they feel attacked or something, to want to hit back and to hurt also, And I cannot say, anything as any absolute. Because sometimes you have to, put one back on the nose or something. I can't say exactly when and what. Sometimes it just happened. And there are times you kind of feel, if I give an example, many years ago when I was selling incense on the street, I finished teaching. I wasn't teaching anymore. I wanted just to experience a bit more freedom in my life and to move with more spontaneity and like this. And so I was used to that. So I started selling incense in my town, actually. First, I tried to get away from my town because too many people knew me. And you just feel like, how can a teacher from college be selling incense on the street? And it was kind of feeling that I had, So I tried different places, Camden and Leicester Square, and it was fine, but it wasn't. I felt like I'm hiding, I didn't want to be seen a certain way or something, But I liked being at home. I liked my town, So one day we just went out. I was make my own bags as well, to stitching with a little singer machine and make these things, thought for the day, some aphorisms which I'd write out. People would come and ask for a thought for the day or buy some incense, had a bell and things like this. And one day, it was coming up towards Christmas time, and I was just on the main road. Those days I'm moving around quite a lot with my bell. And so I had one incense burning, and I was with my bell, clang, clang, incense, on the street like this. And one kind of elderly, Jamaican man, kind of came up. He was standing by for a little while. And he says, why are you, in a very strong voice, why are you selling this stuff? You're a devil worshiper or something like that. It was very strong. I mean, it was very clear, like, why are you selling this ringing bell on the street? Are you a devil worshiper, And so immediately I felt like, to coming up. But by the time it got up to about the chest, it just kind of powdered out. And I found different words coming out, and words coming. And I said, why do you say this, uncle? What are you saying? I said, why? He said, what, because of the bells? I said, but, also, when you went to school, didn't you remember hearing the bell and things like this? Yeah, but I said, it's coming Christmas, and you're seeing Christmas cards with bells. And, yeah. Yeah, but what's this, all this smell, devil worshipping stuff? Very strong. I said, but, I was trying to say, incense. He goes, incense, nonsense. I said, but, because I could see that he was something pushing some feeling that it was a religion that he didn't like or something. So I said to him, at the birth of Jesus, according to the Bible, there was what, 3 wise men? He said, yes, 3 wise men like this. I said, do you remember that they brought him some gifts and everything, Yeah. You think it was, I said, some gold, yeah. I said, what? We talked like this, frankincense, it's incense. And myrrh, incense, I said, I never thought about it like that. And, just said, it's incense. And this is also incense. And then he was, yes. He says, okay, what's that one you have burning there? And it was called Love Supreme. We used to burn this kind of incense in Brixton because a lot of Caribbean people, they like this kind of very sweet smell, baby powder, and they like chewing gum, so smell, But it was quite a nice one. So he said, oh, what's this one you're burning there? It's still crusty, I said, this one's called Love Supreme. He goes, Love Supreme? He said, so I said, smell it, come smell it. And that is for him. And I said, it's very nice. And how much you sell those things for? He said, well, they are £1 for a packet. £1? Yeah, I think I'll have one of them, like this. And that's a conversation that really turned around, in 3 minutes. When something was being felt very strongly and expression was very, very heavy. And my response, was coming just by itself, like, whoa, who the hell are you talking to? I call him, this type of thing. But it came out different, because I know I grew up with sometimes people with this type of voice, and I hear them from a distance, but it was very strong in the face. And I referred to him like, uncle, why you say like this? And took time to explain. And he could make those links. And in the end, he bought an incense, the most ridiculously, miraculous thing at all, considering the way he came, I have been shown also different things I had not considered, that, maybe the people who do this, they want to, some friction, because they work a lot with friction. And the mind works a lot with this type of, when I say often that from the mind comes this invitation in a way to get entangled, to become personal. Because when you're personal, although you're consciousness, you're in your weakest stage. If you are pulled into personhood, then you get very defensive, start to explain like you're guilty and all this type of things. And I feel it's important to taste these in life, although some very bitter tastes come. In a way, in one side I feel I've had enough of them, but at the same time I'm grateful for them also. And why? Because I learned something. Something was good. Some very good decisions came out of being attacked. They were saying that when life sends you chilies, you make chili con carne. They said, make chili con carne. Life sends you make lemonade and this kind of stuff. You can get too much of that kind of over-encouragement, but it said something that, you make use of it. There's a saying that a wise man builds a house out of the stones his enemies throw at him, I like things like that because it's like turning something around from it being solely negative, that it is transformed by something. But it depends on what level, Some people are very much dedicated to, creating poison, They're not that concerned about the people who read their things. They don't have any love for them, for sure. But they can present things as though, they are doing something for your benefit. But they get a joy out of hurting others. That's a reality. There are some people who, for a time at least, will be on that side of the fence. And what to do,
Should we use our discernment as a kind of, sometimes you discern, okay, this is just worldly talk and I'll stay out of it and I'll keep myself high-minded. But sometimes it does feel appropriate to just...
You have to be guided by your own inner GPS, and that is your idea. You may call it your conscience or your spiritual sensitivity or something you sense, And I like to remind people, to really become more aware of themselves more as consciousness, more than as person, and get accustomed to thinking as consciousness. Because when you do, that kind of venom is not so stingy, But from there, some guidance come as to what to do. Why a similar, say, attack would be treated differently at a different time, and what will dictate or determine that difference in response, We can't say. I feel it's a very intuitive thing. And I feel that here is another opportunity of really using your intuition, being with your intuition, and sensing, and sometimes being patient, and to know when it's now being over patient or something. There's a time to do things, and I feel it's all within our sardonic life to be that alert. There's time to say something. Sometimes to say like, this is really enough. It's clear that people who speak in this way do not have the interest and well-being of others, on their mind. They get a joy out of corrupting and just distorting things, and they get a joy from that. And some people feel like, but something must be true, and sometimes nothing is true. Doesn't mean that because something is said means there must be a particle of truth. They maybe get your name right or something. Sometimes it is like that. And there's a part of our culture, I feel, in the human world, and it depends also which polarity you live in the north or in the south. These things everything is somehow contributing to the way in which we experience things and what people have to say. In India, it's not so, it's a bit different, you know. They have a natural respect for spiritual teachers, even though seemingly a lot of times people have been let down or scandals have come and so on. But it's like it's in the Indian blood and the temperament of maybe the East to be much more trusting and faithful and, you know, like this. And in other places, sometimes people are more skeptical, easy towards skepticism, easy to believing things that they simply read and think that that's sufficient a background that it comes in print as a sort of a stamp of authority and of truthfulness, you know. But it's all things we learn on the way. We all grow up, you know, and somehow, you know. And living a personal life is a very costly life, I have to say. Living life based on personhood, steeped in personhood, is a very strenuous life, you know. Sometimes people feel like they have to say everything as much as they feel to declare not fall. But maybe that may happen, but gradually you can meet people in a more natural way. That's what I've found, you know. That I'm not going like I've got anything to teach you. I'm not going because I'm feeling compassion for you. We're just meeting up, and, you know, then just how it comes out, it's always going to come out well. But if I don't have an angle like, you know, listen guys, you know, I'm going to show you how to wake up and all this kind of stuff and things, then I think we do pretty good. You know, you just go and meet, and it's been such a great thing when you don't feel that you have a spiritual commission, you know, to go and change people or to, you know, rope them in or something, you know, and you just go and just relax, you know. But at the same time, you don't do too much to conceal that either. You just have to be yourself, you know. It's just, I don't know, you find your way. The greatest thing is if you don't have any desire, you know. And that's not an easy one, because sometimes you think you don't. You understand? Or when I say, live as though you don't have any rights. These are powerful things, because, you know, sometimes we're inclined to think, yeah, but I'm like that anyway. But then you start to see it creeping in. And just by hearing it, it wakes up that consciously within you, and then you start to reflect like, wow, actually, I would have really fallen on that one, you know, like this. So these things, I think, they stir us up. But not only, even if someone intend to hurt you, your intention is not to hurt them back. Your intention is just to keep, you know, somehow dissolving in this grace that you're discovering. No? Then something happens, you know, something. You learn something, you feel a change, even if they really kick you in the head or something. But somehow it's going to turn out to your advantage somehow. You know, and I don't think that's fluffy reasoning. I've seen it. You see. But, of course, you know, we each, even in the Sangha, you'll find some beings that you resonate with more, and you see each other more, and so it's a perfectly natural thing. But I feel we naturally are drawn to those whose company brings us joy or something, you know. You enjoy that type of energy field, and not so much people who are going to be on your case, you know, although you may say, well, they maybe bring you more opportunities, but you wouldn't really pick them on your team, you know. But if we're really open to it, and it's not pleasant, you know. It's some bitter aloes there, but.
You know, it seems like some people are really, they're drawn to the negative also. Like there are some,
yes.
Like what is it in some cases where they're really drawn to this kind of this small, gossipy, judging, looking for the worst.
I don't know. Sometimes it seems that, you know, some people get a kind of lift out of it. You know, it makes them feel better that someone is doing so bad. And sometimes they say, wow, you know, like, dear, but for the grace of God go I. They say that, you know, to someone who may be spiritually much more advanced than them. But they maybe look on you and thinking, oh, you poor lot, you know, I mean, you were going somewhere 5 years ago, and look at you, you know. And there are some beings who are not happy for your happiness. And we just have to accept that it's like this. As I said before, there has never been a being who has been loved by everybody. Not even God. So there's something when it manifests into the functioning of duality and diversity and so on. We're going to get this. What I've learned from it myself is that this is not my home completely in that kind of way. The earth, the world, the matrix of human projection and the level of that our consciousness is functioning on a human scale. I having come to see more of that. The aspirations that used to be something. They have just really faded away, I tell you. And that doesn't mean you give up. It means that somehow you give up some things which you discover are not in service to the truth, although it may have been a fantasy for a while.
A little while ago, Guruji had this insight that at night when we're sleeping, we're dreaming, and we call it dream. But then the same mechanism that produces the dreams in the daytime seems to produce the thoughts. And I had this real flash of like, wow, this is the dream that we talk about, the Maya, like it's living in these thoughts and projections. And one thing that because you talked about that we learn things from all of these things we're exposed to, and something that I've really seen is that people have many projections about everyone else, but particularly if someone is a spiritual teacher or a spiritual master, then there's all these projections that happen, and perhaps they see things and they interpret them in a way that is completely off the...
There is a seemingly, a stronger inclination towards negativity displayed in much of our Western thinking also. A tendency to look for... Maybe it's just an overactive appetite that's been developed in our society for negative news, and for tearing people down or something like this. It's like a kind of like a culture to do that, And he who feels it knows it, they say, So sometimes, we feel things and then we have not learned sufficiently, and then we end up doing the same things with other beings, But it's true that there are people who, they enjoy to do evil. But I say it's evil, meaning to hurt someone who you don't even know, and to make up lies. I mean, they don't have those principles, that kind of conscience hasn't really shaped inside them, and they perhaps really believe, they really start to believe in their own delusions also. They really believe that, they are crusaders for truth, It can be like this. What to do. Even in the days of Sri Ramana Maharshi, I remember some story like this, that, someone was really against him. Now, we think, can anybody be against Ramana? Well, there's some, in every age, you can be as placid as a goldfish. Somebody's going to be after your nuts, you know what I mean? Sorry, someone can just be, you think, well, what, why? I said, no, I feel that it's good that sometimes, I notice, talking of goldfishes, how they would be, and the Brazilian ones that kind of swim like this, and very, very slow and fat, kind of thing, and then the other ones which are very fast. And when we put them all together, the slow ones, they start to move more quickly. They start to behave, go for the food and flash around and this kind of behavior. I thought, wow, that's not like you, but they were behaving like that. We pick up behavior, until you really begin to experience for yourself. I mean, most of what we think we know are just grafted on in some kind of way. As you begin to make real discovery of the self, you start to see the inadequacies of the personal way of functioning, and that's when I think most people start to feel the real battle, of those forces that, anyway, I still see that they're really against the person, because they cannot be against the higher state of consciousness. You see, they just, all the sails, all the wind has gone out the sails there. but in the person. So I don't see them to be so totally, they spur the person in a way to move on to safer places. And the safe place is to sort of like, if I can use the word, to come back to your formlessness in some way. And at first it may seem just to escape the world of form becomes so heavy, but also you find that, don't let this realization of the self be like some kind of, air raid shelter or something, so that as soon as trouble passes, you can kind of look and see if it's okay to come out. Because when it happens, you start to actually see, wait a second, no, but this is the place. I want to stay here, not to escape. It's like my mind was thinking to escape, but now I see actually is to grow and to see, I mean, how can we ever come to the end of this subject? Because it functions in such a diverse way, according to the very unique strands and waves and frequency, of consciousness in its dances, this kind of manifestation on this level. And on this level will mean differently for different beings also. If it's on the level of personality, the frequencies are very, very agitated easily. If they are more in the frequency of presence, they are more soft and more there's more panorama in them. And from the place of the higher than this one, it's very, very different. It's like, because that is, then all that appears to be can be seen. They've always been and will always be, beings who have a genuine approach and integrity for the truth. There will always be beings who don't. But sometimes it can be like there can be a plague for a while, but everything is for a while. Where something gets really, really, it goes to a full thing, that bubble bursts, and then some relief, some stability come for a bit, and the wave may rise up in another place. I would advise people in satsang to be natural in their way, speak up for themselves, but don't get overly entangled in this type of energy, because it's very, very dark. I don't know how people keep it up. It's very, very dark. And I suppose if you like something, even though it's dark, then there is an energy in there for you. I would always encourage people to avoid that. In Sahaja also, I was talking some years ago like this. Please don't give too much space to people who gossip. It's not a good habit, and it really brings down the vibration, good vibration of the community. And the people who do this, they don't respect you also. They're quite happy to pull you into some mess. You see, they're not your friends, And generally, aim for the higher thing, as much as you can. And biggest of all is to not let your heart develop, nasty feelings about anybody. Because sometimes when someone do something, it depends upon the strength of it, the impact it has on you will reflect in, what you want your response to be. And I can see all manner of strong, dark things coming out when we feel hurt. It's amazing. It's the ego that feels hurt. When the ego is hurt, it does the most atrocious things it can be. Spiteful, resentful, just full of dark things. It's amazing, this play of consciousness. Because it's not the body doing it. The body is perhaps the instrument through which it's expressed, but it's not the doer of it. And I cannot say that the God Self purely delights in that. It must be seen from a higher perspective. To say you should not feel hurt, it's a difficult one, because there are some people who can hear that and just throw off hurt. And others will tell you, no, it's okay to feel hurt, but don't get stuck in that. Allow that emotion to happen or that response to happen, but don't turn it into some war or something. Just, use that, it creates a fire in you, and just offer all of that to righteousness or something.
Guruji, this discussion has been interesting because we're speaking about people who come under attack themselves, or some malicious thing directed towards them, or when they're seeing that happen to a loved one. But actually so much of this goes on even inside our own selves,
Yes.
And what's beautiful about a master like you is that in your natural way you show us that so many expressions are natural and okay, and it breaks down beliefs in ourselves about what life is supposed to look like in the awakened state. And I just felt to say
that's a good point, and I'm always happy to become involved in that, because I see sometimes we beat ourselves up about how we should be, a lot, and it causes suppression, which I don't too much like the sound of. I prefer control, because you can control something, you still have a power there, but if you're suppressing it, there's some shadow there, you're hiding something, and it's going to come up somewhere else, So, even if there was no external enemy of such, in our own minds, that's why I say that you could be even on a desert or live on a small island, and you will still have to overcome your own thinking. Some crab is going to come and really annoy you, and you're going to do something really, really bad, or whatever it is, or you're going to start taking a mosquito bite personally, and whatever it is, and it draws out the stuff inside. It's going to come, and I feel we should use this rather than complain about it. Complain is one of the weakest responses we could do. You can say, yeah, it really hurts and whatever, but if you dwell and you put yourself in the position of a victim or something, then you have not used it really well. I want to talk about the good the bad has done for me, because some things came which I was not looking at them. This is for years and years now, and they came and they felt like a sword, in your side, but they compelled me to move and to change some things inside. And I saw how much it was needed also. But I couldn't say thank you for it, you understand? Because too much the sense of the doer of them was inside me. I'm not looking at it as an experience of consciousness from consciousness, but more personal. If you look at it personal, you get personal, and it's very difficult then to take the full juice out, because you still feel like I still want you to pay for that now, for hurting me. Say, but look what you came out with. And this is why I enjoy to ask people when they speak about bad experiences and so on, did you get anything good out of it? Can you see anything good happened out of it? And sometimes they have to stop and really try to search. And there's a lot of abundance in it, but they were not looking. And if you're not conscious of it, then you don't experience it. But then coming back again, this consciousness thing again, I said, well, you're going to play, consciousness is a liar. In the play it is, in this dynamic thing, you cannot just say it is only good. No, it can be really bad too in that. You have to go above this also. The consciousness mind and the consciousness that manifests as the world and all this dynamic and varied expressions of being and conflicts and stuff. It's doing all of that. I don't trust it. You see? You have to go above that, where you are the witness of that activity also, and know that it is necessary for what is changeful to continue being changeful, and not search for the absolute in the realm of the changeful. At least that thing you come, you see. And at a certain point, something, because it's there already. It's not like you reach there by flying. You come into that space. You follow the right guidance, and you follow, you follow the master's guidance, and it brings you there, or grace opens this way for you, and you experience it. You see, this is what I'm for that. And I don't have to travel one single place. I don't feel I've only ever traveled at the end of an invitation. Somebody invite me to go someplace. I'm quite happy to just be in my yard. In the West, we have a lot of stories of, you know, failed gurus and people who exploit each other and all this type of stuff, you know, and that gets popular and big attention from a lot of places and people, you know? And even the word guru, I started almost to become a taboo. It's like some kind of, it represents some charlatan or something like this, you know. So that's the kind of climate that we live in. People have very short attention spans. They're very quick. We're accustomed, especially with the rising of internet and so on, and everyone can have a voice and us also have a voice and not to be seen and so on like that. It's very, very powerful in the minds of many people, you know, to cast, you know, dispersions and to cast judgments and so on away. So it's a very volatile sort of environment, you know. And again, you may find a teacher who is very soft and kind and doesn't provoke too deep feelings. And it seems people, they feel a certain comfort with that. Like someone who doesn't challenge you too deeply. They like somebody to give you enough challenge to make it entertaining for you. So you say, okay, now they introduce a practice, you must do a bit of something. So some people, they're more happy with that, you know. And there are other teachers who are just fire and brimstone, basically. It was like, you know, they're calling you to account this day, and, you know, you're going to go to hell, and blah, blah, blah. I grew up with some of that environment also, you know, so I know how that can feel. And, you know, you literally feel like, you know, it's today or never, basically, you know, and the gates are closing, and you really just get your ass, you know, whatever, you know. So there's a lot of different ways that people approach spirituality, and it's not so common in the West, this whole thing about guru, master, you know. It's still looked upon with suspicion. There were a lot of stories of, you know, beings who seem to many people at one time to be called an enlightened being, and then, you know, they do something and well, oh my God, how could they do this? And it's so terrible. Because either the beings say that, you know, I'm not human, I'm God. You know, if you do that, it's a big setup. You better be God, because if you're not, you're going to have a mighty fall, basically. You know, those who don't, you know, and keep their teachings keep the teachings more in the umbrella of, say, philosophy, or some may call it, you know, of pure thought or something, or, you know, sort of like some other mode of expression that doesn't excite people, you know, like this, and seems often more mental and scientifically, you know, appealing and this type of stuff. It seems to attract some beings. But God made a lot of different beings, and made some who are just really in love. They meet something happens inside their heart, an explosion of some nature, and they fall in love. They may at first have even considered themselves to be unlovable, they may be atheists, whatever it is, but if that happens, that one of God's atom bombs happens inside you, you pretty much have not much choice, you know. You're going to get, you know, you're going to be flapping about for a bit. And such beings, they come into it in a very different way. And others are inclined to regard such beings as being very weak. Like they give up so much their kind of autonomy and their sense of responsibility, and they have this kind of negative attitude towards them. And the ones who are being unjustly treated in that way are oftentimes much too nice to come fight back with you. They're so much in love, they don't even hear these things, you know. But as for like, if you're in the role of a teacher or something like that, and it depends what the Supreme intends to manifest through a particular form. If anyone really genuinely is aspiring for truth, you have to be cured of the ego mind, the identity with the ego. You know, whatever your path, whether it is a scientific path or an emotional, or if it's a devotional path, or if it's a sort of wisdom-oriented path, or if it's to do with karma yogi and it's an action path, whatever, you have to transcend the ego. identity. So all the different parts are just what God created to align, those with the temperament in the right place to express themselves in whichever way. But it's just a way to overcome your ego, to give up this lowly identity of personhood and to wake up to the truth of your divine origin. And for me, that is a fact. A fact seen enough times. What is so beautiful is that by grace, it is not made to be difficult anymore. If your heart and mind is open, and you can begin to taste the nectar of the self of God. Don't think yourself to be anything above or below, and I think you'll be in good stead. There are always things I like to tell people: watch out for this, mind out for this, Because sometimes upon some initial realization or some awakening happens for them, and immediately the ego is launched. And that's the worst thing. I've seen them slipping right down, and they're sometimes not aware of it, But, we have to be cured. I'm happy you brought back that term. I say that people have to be cured of that way, because for myself, it is so obvious when we are speaking from the place of personhood. It is so obvious when it's coming from that place of personhood and selfishness, and it's not pure. You can tell so quickly, and so should anybody who has been here for some time. Not that you practice that, but you just come to know. It's just like knowing by smell something that's going to be sweet and something that's going to be sort of like peppery or something. You just know from experience, it. So that's one of the things I'd say to people: be wary of, and to be cured of this egoic identity, because with it you will not be free. I can say that. As long as there is ego, another way of ego, you can call ego also arrogance. And it can be mild-looking arrogance or a very hostile kind of arrogance, but in another way it blights your sight, and really makes it impossible, So, the person has to be cured, and until then, it's like I don't want to feel that I too much have to be answerable to the world. According to having always got to live up to their measurement, and the projections about what you should be like. This is what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and you shouldn't touch this, you shouldn't touch that, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't dress like that. You shouldn't be saying this word or something like that. They want a designer saint or a guru, and then if you do this, we'll follow you. Well, I'm really saying to the world, I'm not looking for any followers. I really am not. For the most part, they've been in trouble also. It's not looking for followers. I'm looking for beings who, they're on their own path. If they're searching for something, if they meet me, they are going to experience love, and fairness. And if they're open, I'll put down what I'm doing to guide them if they have a space for that, But I'm not calling anybody, oh, you must be with me. Oh, no, I don't want to. I've heard of some places where the activity of an ashram or sort of like a temple or something is to try and get as many people to come, That's not my problem. I don't have that problem. I don't want to have, I'd rather just not have that many people coming. But if they come, I feel compelled to serve them for some reason. Maybe that's what it is, And not with a heavy heart, to do that. It's just becoming increasingly, sometimes kind of demanding in some way. And I'm also enjoying life, marvelously, in all of its myriad expressions, It's just somehow, It is just how it seems to be flowing, you know. It's just in this continuous state of bliss, you know. But that's been for so long, you know, that it's just kind of, I don't want to say it was ordinary because I don't have the ordinary meaning of ordinary, you know. For me, kind of ordinary means really, really good, you know. Ordinary is really, really good. And, you know, also, I'm learning more and more that, you know, to not even feel that people are responsible for hating you or loving you. I don't know where that comes from, but you know, when I returned from India 1 month before Papaji left the body, and just in the same week, I think Lady Diana from England, she passed away. Mother Teresa passed away. Some other one or something. And I went back to London, and I remember reflecting on something that happened with Diana, you know, because she seemed not to have been happy in her marriage to the prince or whatever. But it was a big thing that was announced, that she was going to open her heart to the world or to the British people, and just expressed, you know, herself. Big interview, you know, really good interviewer as well, too, quite compassionate guy, and talked, and she talked about her feelings, nothing extravagant, you know, just was very, very protective still, nothing. But at the end of her talk, immediately there were panels already of people are already in position. I mean, in position to do what? You know, she just finished talking and said, "All right, we're going over to the BBC now. We have this panel of people from so and so and so and so and so, and people are going to be talking. You know, oh no, you know, that's the last thing she should have done. Oh, it made her look like this. Another one said this, and and of all the wealth and the diversity of different opinions, people, yes, no, we love her, we hate her. I remember one thing that was said by one lady, just on the street, who asked, you know, so what do you make of all of this, madam? And some lady, middle-aged lady, says, well, all I can say is those who hate her will hate her more, and those who love her will love her more. I said, that's life. You know, the people who love you, they will love you more for your honesty. The people who hate you will hate you more. It's like, you know, you'll always find something like this. And the really important thing is not to get too far down with that. Feel the things a bit, work with it, what it's showing you, because this is some acid grace, you know, and you have to be with it, you know, and really and feel the things that are coming up and sort of like, you know, let them burn off consciously, you know. Let them burn off consciously. Because it's got to take you to another place, a higher place. You know, somebody used to say, oh yeah, because he loves people. And something, I love people. No, it's not I just love people. I love the God in people. That's why I love. I want to see the God in you more. You see? Because who you are chosen to be or you are don't interest me. But when I see the God light in you, I'm just naturally attracted to that, and I just love to be with beings like this. Lovers of the truth and stuff, you don't want to, you just sleep, just feel like a waste of time. You just have so much fun, you know, just by just being with being, you know. It's so lovely. And I wish all these people who find it in their hearts to be cursing others and stuff would just come and have a hug, man, and just sit down and just relax yourself, you know, take your foot off this, you know, the devil's shuttle, you know, and just enjoy a little bit of how life can be.
This is why we love you. This is why everyone like that comes into the hearing of your teachings love you, because you're not like far away and unreachable, you know, like you're on the ground, you're with us, you've lived life, you can, you know, we can share with you, and you hear us in a way that's like, it's...
Well, one thing happened somewhere, I don't know how it happened, but I just discovered I was unshockable, actually. You know what I mean? And because I've just seen and heard some things, I think I said, well, okay, you can better that. I'm not waiting around. It's not a competition. But, you know, I mean, and some people might perceive that they really need to protect me from some things. I says, that's just lollipops right there, what you're talking about. And because I've seen, I'm not naive, you know, like this, and, you know, so that's there, and I know that, you know, people say things, they don't realize what they're saying. They don't realize it, because there may come a time when you really, if you don't realize it before you drop your body, there may come a time when you really see, you know, really what you said, and how unloving a place that came from, and such shame will come to you, you know. So I pray that they get corrected early, you know, because it's not good. It's not good. But at the same time, I feel everything is good somehow. But I don't trust that entirely. That everything is good. Everything can be turned off for some good, but some things I have a bit of a difficulty to hold that saying completely. And yeah, I feel God has revealed this very simple way, and is very, very much in it. When I say God, I don't relate to God as a person, you know. It's like just supreme, divine intelligence, spirit that just emanates this perfume of tremendous peace and love. And I don't want to encapsulate, because you can never encapsulate, you see. But you know, that's the, and to break the biggest illusion and delusion that you can be outside of God, talking about God. That all this talk is arranged inside, and depends on who you take yourself to be, and where you choose, or you're capable of putting the emphasis on what's important for you, you know. But that this love came, and this pointers, they're so simple. This has been a great thing, that something could come that is very simple. Don't have to make no fuss. Fine, I can leave it. I can leave it, you know. Say, make use of it. You know, that is a master key. It will serve you very well. Make use of it. Boom, nothing else. Nothing. That feels very good. We must not be naive, though. It just doesn't work like that, you see. And on the human platform, that, you know, you can say yes, somewhere everybody's searching for happiness, you know, but perceiving it in so many different ways, you know. And it can be such that, you know, different groups of people searching for one happiness, fighting against each other, you know. And because of that. And I feel it's really good to know that all of that exists in the bubble of that consciousness, what you may call the waking state consciousness. All the sins and the you know, the transcendence is happening in that realm. You know. And when will it be seen as a dream, and what is meant by dream, you know? Because people need to really have these things explained. Why you say dream? So how can you say that this is a dream? How can you say that this is a dream? On what level? You know, because in dreams, unusual things shift about, and sometimes you're flying, or sometimes you say, no, dream in the sense that the mind is always interpreting based upon its conditioning and the strength of its identity, you know, with the form and, you know, like this. And because of this, you know, we all have a different view of the one earth, we've made our own private world out of it. I say world because it's much more of a psychological phenomenon, you know. The way we think about it, our joys and sorrows, you know, are largely shaped within inside ourselves. They're not just outside, and they're the way that is perceived inside. And who you take yourself to be based upon your experiences and the way that your conditioning makes it possible for you to experience in a certain way. You know? If we understood this, you know, I feel that human beings would be much more kind to each other. You know? But it's the belief in personhood which I feel is at the source and the root of all sorrow in the world. It's this thing, the thing that you must overcome in order to experience what we call liberation or a spiritual awakening or self-realization or moksha or whatever name, salvation you want to call it, you know. It's just this. And, you know, the food of that liberation is served by the same chef in different ways to suit the different, you know, taste, temperaments and of each being. It's most exquisite. I mean, to even try and figure these things out is a kind of, you know, your legs buckle because you come up against your own arrogance to even think you can do that. But you can begin to experience some harmony with that, which is not based on concepts, because in our human world we have so much venerate concepts as though it's our main means of communication. But just depends, you know, it's the mainstream way, but those who are more sensitive, they have different ways of you know, communicating. Body language, your energy, you know, your energy collection, you know, the way that you know, the way that you speak, you know, your ability to look someone in the eyes and speak, all these different things, they just know it intuitively, you know, and communicate. And they can be in silence with people. They can recognize when silence is more powerful than anything you can say, and they can honor that. There's so many different ways that the beings, we're interacting, you see. Very good.